You know, when I was growing up, hustle meant hard work, because Pete Rose was Charlie Hustle and he worked hard, and like, that was a good word. Then to your point, somewhere in the last 5 to 10 years, the word hustle kind of got conformed into, and I know that the word hustle is like I hustled him, so there was a negative connotation, but to me, when you just asked that question, I laugh, like, why would work ethic compromise honor? Those are the two easiest things to balance on earth. So I think that just comes down to how we interpret words. I used hustle as a public figure from 2006 to 2014 aggressively. It communicated what I believed, which is there's a lot of things all of us cannot control. But one thing we can all control is how much effort we put into things. It's the most controllable thing. But then the word got manipulated and started to mean burnout, or win at all costs, or money over everything. And so I walked away from that word. I mean, my usage of that word is so low now. I just use work ethic. It allows me to explain the same thing. I'm not emotionally attached to any words, but being able to balance work ethic with doing the right thing is the only thing I believe in.
Very nice. So
I'll give you one to build on, if I may. I think one thing, I'm sorry to jump in, but that really inspired me. There's another thing I think a lot about. So how many people here by show of hands consume some of my content or have a good gist of my content? Raise your hands. Thank you. So for the people that raised your hands, for the other people that didn't, one of my favorite things to talk about is patience. I'm obsessed with it. I believe in it the most. I think it leads to very good behavior. I think impatience is often an indication of insecurity, rushing for success to show others, not themselves. And so for me, I push patience a lot. I'm stunned by how many people struggle with me pushing patience because they hear complacency. Because, and I'm fascinated by people's inability to balance words that may seem in contradiction. To me, I'm as ambitious as they come. I'm hungry. I'm sitting here today, and there's not a person in the audience that scares me that they're hungrier, because I don't feel fulfilled. I'm still super driven. I feel like I haven't even started. And so I sit here hungry, but I equally impatient. When I hear about my lifelong goal to buy the New York Jets, right? Like, a lot of people, now that I'm a public figure, like, when are you gonna do it? Next year? And it's funny, I see all these people out in the open, happened today at the airport in Newark. Guys like, when are you gonna buy the Jets? And I'm like, 32 years? And like the disappointment in his face. And so I think people struggle to balance what may seem like contradictions. And I think in that, there's something important to dig into. When I analyze my life and when I look at many others, and really for the many in here, which I appreciate the comments, but I know a lot of people here don't know who I am or don't know the depths of my story. Really at the end of the day, I'm incredibly interested in people. One thing that's just become more and more obvious to me is I like people more than most people. Like, genuinely, like even wanting to go out in the cocktail hour and talk to people instead of just being in my green room. That's just who I am. That's who I was born from day one to be. And I was able to really hone it over time. I think practice matters. I always, every time I say practice, I hear Allen Iverson, practice, and I understand what he was saying, but for me it's the reverse. A lot of people ask me about my entrepreneurial career. I'm 47 years old and I've been practicing for over 40 years. For me, it was the only thing I did. I was I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this in this setting, but I was an atrocious student. And it was because I was pot committed. Long before people said go all in or be passionate, there was a level of self-awareness, there was a level of self-belief, there was a level of not willing to compromise. There was something that was inside of me that understood who I was. I just really understood it. I wasn't gonna apologize for it. I was definitely not interested in doing anything bad. I was just looking to be fully myself. And I think a lot of luck with DNA, a lot of luck with circumstance, and I think it was a perfect storm. Even the era that I'm growing up in, what is very clear to me is that I have a very strong knack for understanding attention, right? I just have always understood it. Even when I was doing lemonade stands, when I was 6, 7 years old, back to practicing for 40 years, I was more interested in the signs and where I was gonna put the signs to get people to buy the lemonade than even the money. I was more interested in the attention than the money. So, look, I'm 47 years old. The explosion of the internet happened just as I was ready to go into the real world. That's just a little bit of a luck of the draw. Sure, I can decide that I would have been a good newspaper man or a radio man or a TV man if I was born 2 generations earlier, but in all those scenarios, there are gatekeepers. There are gatekeepers. The internet and social media, and the reason this is such a big deal, and whether you think it's awesome or you think it's bad, there's so much that goes along with it. What everyone's struggling with is nobody's in control. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, these platforms are empty. There's no editor-in-chief. There's no head of the studio. This is not a subjective opinion, it's merit. Who's the human could put in the work, put in the message that most attracts people's attention, and we judge in this room, in the world, who people pay attention to, but that's silly. That's you judging clear data that supports that other people find XYZ interesting. We all have different interests, we all think different things are interesting. So, I think the story of me is, I'm very fortunate, and that's why I'm incredibly, driven by gratitude. I'm a very simple dude who's doing a lot, right? I think when people look at me from the outside, I have 700 trillion businesses. I'm putting out content 58 times a day. I'm always up to something, but in reality, I think I'm incredibly simple, which is I keep life very basic. I'm not doing it for the accolades or the trophies. I'm humbled by it. I'm humbled to take a selfie, but it's not what I strive for. I don't need that. My parents took care of my self-esteem, so I'm good. I'm just living my life, and at this point, I'm just trying to, there's probably a level of guilt that is a currency inside of me, that it worked so well for me, that mix between gratitude and guilt inspires me very heavily to try to give an ounce to the world what's inside of me. And so that's how I roll. I sit on the board of Pencils of Promise and Charity Water. We do a ton of work in Africa to build schools where there are no schools, to get clean water. By the way, you wanna be grateful real fast? There are 750 million people on Earth, almost 10%, that do not have access to clean water. We worry about dumb, silly things, like our internet's slow, right? Or like silly things, and there's 10% of our society doesn't have access to clean water. Think about that. So I sit on these boards, and I have all my wealthy friends, many who came up the way I did with less than more, and they're like, Gary, can you take my 15-year-old son to Africa for a week? I wanna really show them. I'm like, okay, but just to save you some time, they're not gonna come back and be totally different people. We try to do all these silly tactics. We're not gonna win that game. I think what we can do, I think we need to focus on civility and humanity and good traits. One thing we do very poorly is we create ideology that can't be accomplished. It is the human spirit. We need to get off the religious bandwagon of that you can recreate it. You can't, right? You can control it. You can mitigate it. Money is a big one. I talk to my parents about my situation, and I'm always like, well, there's gonna be an age where I stop giving it to them. And I look at their eyes and I walk away, and I know they're laughing at me because they think it's already too late at 14. And I think, oh no, that's the right time. And you go by stories. I have unlimited friends who came up in very wealthy environments, whose parents made them get jobs and stopped giving them money around 14, 15, 16. And when I analyze them versus friends who didn't, in over 40, 50 people, it feels a little bit better. But we're not gonna be able, my kids are not gonna work in my dad's liquor store for 15 hours a day from 15 years old on, 7 days a week for 20 years. That's not happening. And that's okay. It allows me to make fun of them that they're soft.
Someone's just getting started on social media and they're only getting 12 likes and 16 likes, and they feel like, well, Johnny or Rebecca sees that I only got 12 likes and they feel weird about that. What would you say when they're first, like you used to get your first few views and now you've got tens of millions of views. Walk us through that first phase.
You still suck.
I love it. That's it. Next question.
Like sometimes people come up to me like, Gary, fuck you, Gary. Like, I've been doing it for 7 years and I have 1,800 followers and get 2 likes. I'm like, bro, you suck. And I don't say that to razz him. I'm like, not that social doesn't work, because there's billions of examples of it working. It's that you haven't found it. Like, what you're doing isn't resonating with the world, and that's on you to either not, and this is a real one, not care because you like doing it and fuck it. You got your 1,700 followers and you're fucking living. Or if you want something else, you've got to change it. You got to change the creative format. You've got to change the way you present. You've got to change, maybe you shouldn't be in the content, you should be behind the scenes. There could be a million reasons, but you shouldn't dwell on where you're at. Again, back to health and fitness, what I was doing in the gym 10 years ago is very different than what I'm doing now. That shit in the first month was disastrous. Like 8 atrocious push-ups. You know what I mean? I don't do that anymore because I put in the fucking work and I put in the time. And so I think that a lot of people need to realize where they are on the journey. And I do think people give up too soon because the first year didn't go well and they don't realize that they're just starting. It's about reps. And, I think, again, this all goes into the mindset shit that I'm most fascinated about. Most of the shit that everyone here is not achieving isn't based on them not knowing the tactics. The tactics are available for free. You can go Google and YouTube everything. They're free. The mindset that stops one from doing it is the thing I'm most fascinated by, especially in entrepreneur land. Just to remind everybody, what we all do for a living, you're basically losing all the time. This journey of building shit is a game of micro losing all the time. And if you get really good at micro losing, you tend to macro win. And what that means is there's always little step backs. But if you take something from it and you tweak and you build and you tweak and then something else gets fucked up, it's like the whole, the boat that keeps having holes in it. You're on the boat and this thing's fucked up, you put your finger in it, you patch it up, that's fixed, but fuck, 2 things popped up over here. Everyone here is micro losing. I'm losing all the time. We lost a client this week. We lost 3 good employees that I didn't want to lose. You're constantly losing. We need to fall in love with losing. This is where I get serious about the 8th place trophy. The reason that's dangerous is we're teaching kids that losing is bad when losing is actually the best. The best fucking entrepreneurs in the world love to lose, promise. And just notice, Dan, just notice how light the claps were on that.
Yeah.
Right? Like just notice what everyone just did. There was a couple. People don't like to lose because they worry about what other people think. Woe is right, motherfucker. People don't like to lose because they're actually worried. I don't give a fuck what you think about my losses. Not because I'm audacious or I'm mean, because it's like an athlete. Do you understand? Could you imagine an athlete stopping every time the home crowd booed? I mean, there wouldn't be a single Jets player on earth. I'm booing within the first 8 seconds of the game. Like all of you are on the fucking field. Do you understand that all of you are on the field? So it doesn't matter what your fucking mom or uncle or sister say. They're on the fucking stands eating popcorn watching you fucking play. Like, honestly, like, I talk to like friends and family, but like, they're like, Gary, but my mom said, look your mom in the face and say, Mom, if you don't think what I'm doing is right, fucking go show me you do something and let me look at that. Yeah. I'm not fucking worried about people's opinions that are not on the fucking field. Fuck.
So here in Salt Lake, we have a lot of people that are in the door-to-door space.
Yes.
Obviously, one of our sponsors. When you start making money early, these guys are 22, 24, 26 years old, making 10 grand, 20 grand, 30 grand, 40 grand, some of them 100 grand in a month or 200 grand in the summer. What do you say to the kids that are making money like that at 22, 24, 26, so they don't go?
Yeah, that shit scares the love fucking shit out of me. Look, I mean, when you're making that kind of money at that age, like, I really get worried because I'm wondering, like, what's gonna happen? It's cliche. Going back to what we just ranted about, so many people are living their lives to impress everybody that they're gonna go take that money and buy dumb shit, right? It's gonna burn a hole in their pocket. Many of them are thoughtful and will do smart shit. Look, I think there's a million things people could do in that scenario, and I don't think anything I'm about to say is the right way. You've got to know your situation. For some of those people, they're gonna do incredible things like pay off debt for family members and remarkable things. For some of them, they are gonna buy a toy, and that's okay too. I know I talk a lot about, people buying things, and people get mad at me. They're like, no, Gary, I like this car. I'm like, if you really like it, you should be like, I buy tons of dumb shit. I buy custom jerseys of fourth string Jets players for $180. They may never play, and I buy it strictly to go to the stadium and wear the jersey to peacock that I'm the biggest Jets fan in the stadium. That's not smart, So they'll buy toys, it's all fine. I think the biggest thing is, at that young of an age, there's so much good you could be doing with that. Yeah. But the biggest thing that I think about that, when I hear that from you, is finding your relationship with money. One thing I think we all agree that is completely no longer talked about is saving money. That used to be like the only conversation in this 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Like, I literally look at Google Trends and search on social, nobody's talking about saving money, right? And when you come into money quickly in your early 20s, a lot of times you think it's always gonna be there. And so we see a lot of people in that scenario, it comes and then it's gone, and they've already tasted having money, so now they're depressed because they're 26 and they have less at 26 than they had at 22. And so these are the things I worry about. I just think building an actual good relationship with money where there's a balance between savings, investing, buying some things to make you and your family happy, just finding a balance. Look, I know how much the world is excited about blaming social media for everything and this scenario. I'm 47 years old. Our social media was Kate Moss was being blamed for shit because of her photos in a magazine and what her weight was. We're always blaming something. Marilyn Monroe was blamed, Barbie was blamed, Cindy Crawford was blamed, Kate Moss was blamed. Somebody's always to blame. Parents love to blame the outside. The only way to win the game that all us parents want, which is we want our kids to not get caught up in some shit, is for us to focus on building the kids' self-esteem. It's true. There are millions and millions and millions of young girls and boys right now going through social media, and they're not devastated by someone else's money or good looks or happiness. There's millions of them. They're the ones who were fortunate enough with either DNA or great parenting from everyone who just clapped by instilling into that child that you are good enough and these are the things you're good at. Where we lose our way sometimes is we tell these little fuckers they're good at everything, and that's delusion. Which is why we have to get rid of 8th place trophies, because they're fucking us up. You do not build self-esteem by telling your child they're great at everything. You build self-esteem by pointing out the things your kids are good at and you pointing out the things they could work on. But once you build that self-esteem, they can deal with other people's happiness. For the first time ever in the history of marketing, the content creates the distribution. The way every other platform for 100 years has worked, from radio to billboard to direct mail to television to the whole internet, was you made a picture or video and then you paid money to try to get in front of people. For the first time ever, and it did not matter how good your video or picture was. If you made a shitty commercial, NBC did not give you their money back. They took it and it ran. For the first time ever, the quality of the creative creates the distribution. There are people in this room who do not have a TikTok account, who tomorrow can open one, have 0 followers, and if they make a quality piece of creative that is interesting to the masses, could have 1 million people see it. This is unprecedented. This matters big, and here's where it becomes atomic. The OTTs and FAST channels and streaming services are building their ad product more like that than like television. And so we are in a crash course in the next 5 to 7 years where every ad above the line, as they call it, television, and all of social will be now in a place where the creative is a variable to the success greater than we've ever seen. And the practitioners, I sit here today as a man who knows the difference between putting the same picture on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube Shorts, Facebook Reels, Facebook main feed, like all these platforms. I know the difference of what it needs to look like, what the first 3 seconds need to look like, what the title needs to look like, what time to post it, how much copy, which hashtags. This is a skill. This is not your 22-year-old fucking niece doing this for your company. This is a massive skill, and it's the most important skill, and I think everybody here is punting it and having it as their 15th to 80th biggest priority, and I believe from the Utah Jazz to an entrepreneur out here on day one, the craft of producing 30, 40, 50, 60 ads a day, 30, 40, 50, 60 a day across 11 platforms, targeting different demos. This is for the female fans. This is for the female 32 to 40-year-old fans who like Taylor Swift and go to yoga. This is for 55 to 57-year-old African-American fans who like Jay-Z. Like deep segmentation, 30, 40, 50 segmentations. If you're a B2B SaaS business, this is for the CFOs on LinkedIn and Fortune 5000 companies where we're gonna make copy and creative that tells them how much money they will save if they use our SaaS product because they're a CFO, and you fucking CFOs out there, you love saving money. Please make this the time, even if you're one of those people that's heard this from me 99 times, and definitely if you've never heard this from me, please listen to me. Everything on earth is based on communication. Everything. Like it's way bigger than you think. And I can't believe in 2023, heading into 2024, how many of you here do not take social media serious. It has the far majority of our country's attention, the world's attention on it. And let me say this nice and slow, right? This is business 101. It's free. The distribution is free. Of course you can run ads on it, and of course it costs money to make a video or things of that nature. But you're not calling the Jazz for sponsorship, and Ryan's like, yeah, no problem, put your patch on my jersey, it's free. You can't get a newspaper ad for free. Google is not free. You can't do a commercial for free. Radio ads are not free. For the first time, distribution is potentially free. And for the real players in this room, and this is a big one, Ryan, for the real players in this room, you know that we've gone through a massive transformation in social media in the last 24 months, which I refer to as the TikTokification of social media. And what that means is the following. I invested 17 years ago in 3 companies. They were the first 3 companies I invested in. They were called Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr. So that means that I made a lot of money, but it also means something important for this point. When I invested in Tumblr, which was the third of those 3 investments back in 2006, I called my brother AJ and I said, obviously I just invested in Facebook and Twitter 6 months earlier, 3 months earlier, and I called AJ. I had this meeting with David Karp, the founder of Tumblr, which was a New York-based tech company, which was unusual. And I called AJ and I said, bro, I just invested in the biggest one of them all. Tumblr will be bigger than Facebook and Twitter. First, thank God I did not make that video. Second, let me tell you why I said it. I said it because the mistake I made was I didn't take into consideration at the time the jockey, not the horse. Obviously, Ev Williams and Jack were more capable operators. Mark Zuckerberg was a more capable operator than David Karp. Now, David Karp still sold Tumblr for $1 billion years ago when $1 billion was like 50 billion now, right? So it was still a monster exit. But let me tell you why I thought Tumblr was gonna be the biggest. Facebook and Twitter, what I explained to AJ on that call, which I actually wish I did record so I could show it to you now and tell you how long I've been waiting for the TikTokification of social. Facebook and Twitter, you followed people. It was your social graph, and it worked like email marketing. We would all try to amass as many followers, and a percentage of our followers would open, like open rates, right? Get 1 million followers, 27,000 to 250,000 would see it. It worked like email. I understood that. I built my daddy's wine business on email. I understood. Tumblr was doing something different. You were following your interests. And you can tell them, right? Here it is, it's about to come. You see it?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay. The reason I just got goosebumps is because I remember what I felt once I understood what Tumblr was doing, which was our interests are more powerful than the people we follow. As a matter of fact, all of our friends are almost solely based on our interests. We became friends on aligned interests. So I fell in love with Tumblr, and so for the people that follow me the most, and I've got some friends in the front that I know do, you remember 7 years ago, I went crazy on Musical.ly. The reason, and everybody was like, all right, this is the time Gary actually lost his mind. Why is an app that has 13-year-old girls dancing on it, why is he yelling about this? Because I saw the interest graph come back, and I knew that it started with 14-year-old girls, but we would all eventually be there because it's the most powerful thing. Now, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube Shorts, Snap Discovery, Twitter, all of the platforms now are showing you higher percentage, and I believe TikTok included is not showing us enough of it. I think they should be pot committed to just showing us what we want to consume, because that's how the world actually works. And I think the future battle of who's gonna win this battle of these 4 or 5 companies is which algorithm goes all the way to just showing us what we want to be seeing instead of random stuff. How many of you are familiar with Star Wars? Enough, good. So I said to Rai, I'm building my communications Death Star, right? I have 2,000 employees around the globe, 300 people in APAC right now, 100 people in LATAM, 300 people in Europe. I'm building a communications Death Star. I'm the Emperor, right? Actually, right? I'm the Emperor. And with my communications Death Star, I can point it at anything I want. So 7 years ago, I pointed it at an app we incubated at Vayner called Resy, and that was highly successful, and we sold that to Amex. 3 years later, I pointed my Death Star and sent some stormtroopers to go work there, and I pointed that at Empathy Wines, a direct-to-consumer wine brand, and we sold that to Constellation, right? A couple years ago, I made a really big bet, and I pointed my Death Star and a ton of stormtroopers and even a couple of Darth Vaders to something called VeeFriends, which is my Pokemon Sesame Street intellectual property.
Skeletor last night?
Yes, big collaboration. Skeletor and Skilled Skeleton at VeeFriends. So I'm building this communications Death Star. Anyway, just to come back to being Gary, back to being Gary. I said to Rai, we're teaching a totally different skill. He's building an internal shop, he's my homie, I just heard that. The biggest fear I have is they know how to make the content, but they don't know the nuances of the distribution and how to make the content for the distribution. So they may know how to make great content, ESPN, the Jazz, everybody, there's a lot of talented storytellers. The problem is every storyteller that has been trained for the last 30 years was not trained in having to think about the distribution. The distribution was just the screen, 30 minutes, yeah, okay, I'm doing a sitcom, I gotta tell the story in 22 minutes, that was it. Today, there's not a single time that I post-produce video that I'm recording that I'm not thinking about how the algorithm works on LinkedIn. What is the features? Is it a carousel ad? Like, why am I posting on Instagram now a carousel 2-post post where the first one's an image and the second one's a video instead of what I've been doing for 2 straight years, which is just a video? It's because I'm watching, I'm day trading attention. It goes much further than that with day trading attention. Influencer marketing is one of the greatest opportunities in marketing today to either get an obnoxious deal for $100,000 in 1 or 30 influencers and crush, or spend $100,000 on 1 to 30 influencers and get nothing. This is a skill of day trading all of pop culture, distribution, creative variables. So what I was saying to Rai was, look, if I'm right about this, and ironically, there's a great company based here that literally, where are they? Are they maybe backstage? Literally, a week ago, an employee that worked for me for the last 9 years became the CMO of a company based in Utah. I just met the gentleman back in. They've been working with one of my agencies, that's where they met her. So yes, I do believe that a shocking percentage of Fortune 500 CMOs in 10 to 20 years would have been trained at VaynerX, and I'm really proud of that, and I want that for those employees, and I want that for the marketing world, because I believe that marketing today is in a shit show. I think we're wasting an obnoxious amount of money, and I think we need to fix it. You know, slow it down, everybody. Like, life is long. Like, of course have fun. Like, when I talk about, like, you know this, I've for a long time talked about, like, don't buy all this stuff, and most of the people in these circles are mad at me. I'm not saying don't buy a Lambo.
Sure.
I'm saying
don't buy four.
And by the way, even that's fine. Do you know why you're buying it?
Yeah.
Like, if you like have loved cars your whole life, read car magazines, like I go into a car, there's no enjoyment. There's no, like, I don't, like, all my friends who, like, I know genuinely like it, like, I don't understand, like, the speed you don't get, like, I don't like that. And so for me, that's not right. If that's right for you, then that's amazing. But most people buy logos to flex, to close gaps of insecurity. And so that's what worries me. Because if you're just into a little money and you decide to buy a Rolex because actually you're insecure and you're not confident, you need that flex to rub elbows with me or to hit on that girl, then you've got other work that you need to do. And that money is not gonna be well spent. It's gonna be a short-term high, and then you're gonna be in like a weird place. And so money's it's an exposure of your truth. So anyway, back to investing, to stay on track, shit you understand. I'm self-aware of what I'm trying to accomplish, which is I'm trying to maximize joy, not maximize money making. So you have to know who you are. So for me, I know that yes, I have these lofty goals of buying the jets, but I feel like I'm gonna do that through operating. VeeFriends and VaynerX give me that chance. And I get joy. I wouldn't say it's gambling, but it's definitely in between gambling and investing the right way that I like, because it makes me happy. And, you know, like I get joy, you know, Facebook and Twitter, like these investments, I mean, it's gonna take me a while to lose enough money to offset how big those wins were.
Sure.
But then you have to know yourself. For example, here's a weird one, like T-bills. Like if you don't know, like, do you know that most of the fucking people who are listening should just get 5.5%, 6% on their money?
Yeah, okay.
Like that didn't exist 3-4 years ago. Shit's changed, money's expensive now, so interest rates are up. So a lot of people who are sitting, like, I mean, all day long, people are like, Gary Vee, I just got into money my first time, I got 200K, what do I do? I'm like, well, if you don't know what to do, invest in T-bills and get your 5 points on your money instead of letting it sit in a bank with no risk.
Right.
If you do know what you're doing, you know, I think certain stocks that kick dividends are interesting, like a Pepsi. It's not going away tomorrow, and they're kicking, you know, and that's kicking dividends. And then real estate's great. Like I think if you like it, my dad loved it. That's where almost all his investing went into. Almost none of mine has. I'm bored by it. Like I understand I bought a building and people are paying rent, but I'm like, I don't know, like I don't like it, even though it's great. And like, by the way, most of the last generation's billionaires came from real estate because all the tax law is written so positive. Real estate's great if you get off on that. And then there's alternative shit. Like, you know, what I will say for sure, and this is what my number one belief is that it's the cross section of something you like and something you understand. I hate when people invest in shit they don't understand because someone smart told them. Please, my friends, do not invest in shit you do not understand. Which is why I like people buy, though I don't do it, I love people buying stocks of their favorite companies.
Yes.
If you're about Starbucks and like you do a little reading and you're like, they seem normal, like the CEO, everything's chill, like that's a good investment. Yeah. Buy some Starbucks shares. Like, you know, the stock market's a good bet. Like the stock market will work as long as America's around. So that's a very good bet. So I think it's a game of enjoying it and a game of understanding it. I think that's what people should focus on.
Part of my speech I say, raise your hand if you think Apple will be here in 5 years. What about Netflix? How about Facebook? Walmart? Okay, raise your hands again if you shop at Walmart. Do you buy Netflix? Do you buy Apple?
Do you have Facebook?
Okay. If you believe in them that much, you'll spend $1,500 on an iPhone. Why don't you buy $1,500 of stock?
That's right.
Right. Buy $500 at Walmart. You like Walmart? Buy $500.
Yep.
You don't have to go put in your life savings. Go buy a little bit of these things over the course of your life.
What people don't understand is how advantageous it is to invest too, because they don't know rules. I didn't know them. I didn't know that if you lost an investment, you can write that off against an investment you made money on and play the arbitrage there. So, like, you know, we were not educated on money well, which is why I'm glad. Yeah, I get it. And so look, ChatGPT and Google, like, and YouTube, like, learn, like, the demo that I feel is listening to this right now just moves too fast.
Right.
When they first hit money, either in buying something, it's okay to reward yourself. Listen, I grew up with only kids that had nothing. I grew up in very lower middle class environments. So I get when you finally do something, you go to buy a crazy car or you know, a watch. And listen, let's call a spade a spade. 90% of the time, dudes do that to get girls. Like I get the human psychology of it all. I would just say, slow down a second, because if you've got 200,000, if you slow down a second, just slow down, you're more likely to have 2 million. Because if you go fast, you're back to zero.
Right.
And we all know that. Every one of us in this motorhome know people that got into some money and went to zero, straight zero. ChatGPT, everyone. You know, Google changed the world. ChatGPT, you can ask that bot very, very specific questions. Hey, I'm a plumber. Yep. I make $39,000 a year. I get to save $1,000 a year. What should I do? Enter. You would be blown away what AI can do. You can be very specific. You can't do that on Google. Hey, I have $18,000 in debt from this credit card company. I'm paying 7.3. Start using AI for your advantage, not something you heard about or demonize or don't understand. Don't understand is unacceptable.
Right.
I don't get it. Okay, Google it. YouTube it if you're like me and can't read for shit. And listen, like, so, you know, for a lot of people wanting to learn about money, could you imagine having real information? Like, could you imagine sitting down with somebody that knew most things?
That's awesome.
Isn't that a cool way to think about it? Hey, like, imagine sitting down with fucking Yoda. Instagram's tougher now, supply and demand. It's not like it was when we were kicking it in 2014, you know? Like, there's more, and a lot of the demand went to TikTok and YouTube Shorts, but the supply is super up. Yesterday, more people posted on Instagram than ever before.
Crazy.
So it gets harder. So you're looking for what I call strategic organic content. Like, what's the organic content move? Meaning, of course there's ads, but what's the respectful, proper, back to like getting buff, right? Like, there's steroids. And there's putting in the work and eating protein in those ratios. And listen, I'm not interested in, I know the snake's just all over the fucking place. You know, like, and yeah, I was pumped that you caught me at a good time, because it was a revelation for me only 30 days earlier. Like, we're constantly testing. We have, what I think I do well, that I want more people to do well, is I have the humility for it to bomb. I don't fear somebody coming to Gary Vee's page and seeing 80,000 views, you got 14, like, you suck. Right. Like, I'm like, okay, you suck too. Like, what are we talking about? I don't know. Like,
see you tomorrow.
Right, so we take a lot of creative risks. Most people can't get out of posting the same shit over and over because they need the same results, even though it's declining. Mm-hmm. So we find shit, and the one we found on this one was, instead of just posting the video, which everybody's been doing for a while now, first post an image that kind of previews what the video is going to be as a video. And so it's a 2-post carousel, image first, video second. And I'm so happy you're seeing results. And the reason I'm saying it out loud here is, and you know this about me, Dan, like, I'm weird when it comes to someone who hacks. I go from finding it to immediately telling everyone. Right. Like, all my best buds are like, yo, can't you just sit on this for like a month? Like, don't you? And I'm like, nobody's taking from me. Right. Like, I'm gonna get mine regardless. And I like that people, it feels nice. Like, it feels nice to be admired when you're helping. Right. Going to your last part, charity, it feels nice. Like, you know, when you don't have anything and then you get money, you really, like, especially in the beginning, you're like, yo, I'm not sure I can give this away. Right. Like, you know, like, I remember being young and hearing like Bill Gates and all those guys were giving away 99%. I was like, yo, that shit's crazy. Now I understand. Yeah. Especially with kids. You know, you don't want to leave, you know, leaving kids, those characters, leaving kids billions of dollars, it's actually going to make them unhappy. So,
that's actually my next question.
Yeah, you know, before we go into charity, the biggest charity is intellectual generosity. And I know I'm very good at my craft, and I know I'm at the top of the game. And I'm proud. I watch people far less capable than me hold everything to themselves. Scarcity mindset, wanting to pass you or me or you in followers, and that's their fucking, I don't see it that way. I looked at someone's account today who I was like, whoa, and I was like pumped that they're like, I don't know, like I don't know how to boo